What's up, guys? Well, if you look around, we are not in the theater anymore. From now on, Youth United is going to meet in this room. We will no longer be across the hall in the theater, and we are so excited about it. Listen, guys, for the last 6.5 years, I have been leading Youth United. And for the last 6.5 years, that room, the theater, it was ours. That's where I stood when I gave my very first message on a Wednesday night. That's where so many of you decided to put your faith in Jesus for the very first time. That's where so many of you in this room decided, I want to get baptized. That's where so many of you in this room decided that you finally had the confidence to invite your friend from school. And I want you to hear this clearly. That room, until very recently, was never too small. It did exactly what it was built to do. For 6.5 years, it held every single person that we've reached. But you just watched that video, and you saw what YU used to look like, skinny jeans and all. And here's what I need you to know for tonight, is that we didn't outgrow the theater by accident. It didn't happen by accident. I believe that God grew this ministry on purpose. I believe that God had a purpose for us for 6.5 years in the theater, which means I believe that God has a purpose for us in this room too. But tonight, it's not really about a bigger room. Tonight is about answering one question. That question is, what are we going to be known for? Because here's the thing about that question. Every group of people is known for something. Nobody gets to skip that part. The question wasn't if YU is going to be known by something. The question is, what is YU going to be known for? And here's the problem with a room this size. There's a whole list of things that we could get known for starting tonight. And trust me, they would feel amazing, but they would completely miss the point of Youth United. We could be known for having one of the loudest rooms. We could be known for all the lights. We could be known for the LED walls. We could be known for the fun videos that we do. We could be known as the biggest and best place to spend your Wednesday night. And all of that would be cool, and none of it is bad, but all of it would completely miss the point. Because you can pack out a room every single week and still completely miss the reason that God grew us in the first place. Here's what I mean. A room can get bigger while a group gets smaller. I mean, we just tripled our space in literally the last 5 minutes. In this room is big enough to hold the entirety of Elkhorn High School. Every single student at Elkhorn High School, this room can hold that plus about another 100. It is possible for this group to grow, but still get smaller. See, smaller means you're not looking for someone to bring. Smaller means when somebody sits down, you don't say a word to them. Smaller means you're just happy with who is already in the room. And you could be the biggest group in Omaha. Youth United could be the biggest in Omaha and the smallest group in the room all at the same time. So here's the real question hiding underneath. What are we going to be known for? The real question is, are you going to be known for the people that we keep? Or are we going to be known for the people that we reach? Before I show you anything in the Bible, I want you to take a look at your own life for just 1 second. Think about where you were before you ever started showing up here. Because some of you have found some real transformation since you started attending YU. It's not fake. It's not forced. It's real transformation. Maybe it was anxiety that you carry, or anger that you can't control, or something that you were doing in the dark that you never wanted to admit to anyone else, but something in you changed, and something in you is different because of what God has done through this ministry, through the people that are a part of YU. Some of you found community. You've got people in this building who know you, and not the fake version of you that you put on at school, the real one. And they show up for you in every way that you need. Some of you found out that you're good at something. Some of you started to serve on a team, and it turns out that you just don't take up a seat while you're here. You give back. You're needed. And you have a gift, and this is a place where you discovered that gift. But here's the truth. Youth United was never meant to just stay yours. And I'll go one step further. Your relationship with Jesus was never meant to just stay yours. And we know this by looking at John chapter 1. Jesus, he's calling his first disciples, or the people who would follow him during his ministry. And Andrew, who would become one of those disciples, he actually spends the entire day with him. And the first thing Andrew does after spending an entire day with Jesus it wasn't he sat down and decided, I need to go journal about this. The first thing that he did was, I need to go process what this day was. The first thing he did wasn't just go home and take a nap because it's been a long and busy day. The first thing that Andrew does is he goes and finds his brother, Peter. And he says in one sentence, I have found the Messiah. But he doesn't stop there. He then decides, I'm going to bring Peter to Jesus. And then a few verses later, we actually see the exact same pattern with Philip. Philip meets Jesus, and then he decides, I'm going to go out and find my friend Nathaniel. But here's the thing about Nathaniel, he's not actually convinced. Actually, he ends up insulting the whole idea that Jesus is who he claims to be. He says, can anything good come from Nazareth? Nazareth is the place that Jesus came from. It's where he grew up. And Nathaniel says, can anything good come from there? He's doubting that Jesus could be who he claims to be. But Philip, he doesn't argue with him. He doesn't debate him. He says 3 words. Come and see. That's it. That was the whole strategy of the early church. Not a program, not a perfect agreement of people, just people who found something real and immediately thought of somebody that they loved, and they said, come and see. Why you? You don't need a theology degree to invite your friends here. You don't need to have every single question answered to bring somebody. You just need what Andrew and Philip had. You need to have a real encounter, something that happened to you where you encountered God, and then somebody who you care about enough to say 3 words to. Come and see. So if it's that simple, if all it takes is the simple words of come and see, then why don't we do it? Why don't we do it all the time? Whenever somebody pops into our minds, why don't we take that step? Well, here's what I think is the biggest risk to Youth United. I don't think it's something that is out there. I don't think it's something that you would guess, because the biggest risk to YU is not outside this room. The biggest risk to YU is not whether or not our city will accept us. The biggest risk to YU is not some outside force that is coming after us. The biggest risk to YU is apathy. Let me tell you what apathy really looks like, because it's not as dramatic as you might think. Apathy doesn't mean or doesn't look like you hate God. Apathy looks like standing and worship with your arms crossed because it's easier than engaging. Apathy looks like sitting in the same 5 seats next to the same 5 friends every single week because you stopped noticing that there was an empty seat next to them. Apathy is watching a new kid stand against a wall, not knowing where to go and thinking, that's somebody else's job. Somebody else will go and talk to them, and then nobody does. Apathy is knowing exactly who you should invite, having their name in your head right now, and doing nothing with it. over and over and over again. Guys, apathy isn't loud. It's not dramatic. Apathy is just quietly deciding that something isn't your job. And it's not your job to care. And I want to show you something Jesus says directly about apathy in Revelation chapter 3. He's talking to the church in the city of Laodicea. And however, he isn't going to use the word apathy, but he's going to use a word that has the same meaning. This is what he says in Revelation chapter 3, verses 15 through 16. He says, I know your deeds, that you are neither cold nor hot. I wish that you were cold or hot. So because you are lukewarm and neither hot nor cold, I will spit you out of my mouth. And here's what makes that last line hit so hard. Laodicea, you see, it didn't have its own water source. They actually had to pipe their water in from miles away. And on one side of the city, they had water that came from a hot spring. A hot spring would be somewhere you would go if you were injured, and you would go, and it was like healing water. And on the other side of the city, the water came from the mountains. It was cold, and it's what you would drink. But because they had to pipe the water in for so many miles, by the time it reached the city, it had traveled so far that when it came out of the tap, it was lukewarm. The cold water was no longer refreshing to the taste. The hot water was no longer able to heal. And people would take a drink and they would immediately spit it back out. And that's the picture that Jesus picks on purpose. He's not saying, I just wish you'd get it together. He's saying something much more direct than that. He's saying, I would rather you be cold and 100% out than lukewarm. Jesus says flat out rejecting him is more honest and a more respectable position than being indifferent to him. Because cold takes a position, hot takes a position, lukewarm doesn't cost you anything. There's no conviction, there's no risk, there's no discomfort. Lukewarm just sits there. And Jesus says that's one posture that he can't stand. As followers of Jesus, that should terrify you a little bit. Not because God's mad at you for having your doubts or because you don't have it all figured out. Cold, he can work with. Hot, he can work with. But what breaks his heart is indifference. What breaks his heart is us being in the room week after week, close enough to Jesus to know better, but just not caring enough to do something about it. And here's a connection. Apathy could have been the thing that kept Andrew from ever finding his brother and bringing him to Jesus. It's not that Andrew stopped believing what happened to him was real. He just didn't feel like getting up and bringing his brother to Jesus, figuring that Peter would just figure it out on his own or somebody else would do it. If Andrew was lukewarm, Peter maybe never meets Jesus. If Philip was lukewarm, Nathanael never gets invited. He never hears come and see, and he never finds out that he was wrong about Nazareth, and he never meets his Savior. Y'all, the theater, it didn't fill up by accident. And we will not fill this auditorium by accident either. The theater was full because somebody, somewhere, refused to be lukewarm. And they decided to invite someone they cared about. So here's a real question for tonight. It's not, am I a good person? It's not, do I believe the right things? The question is, am I hot, cold, or lukewarm about reaching the people that God has put in front of me? See, you already have what it takes. You have a real story. You've experienced real transformation in your life. The only thing that could stop what God is doing in this room, it isn't out there. It's whether we care enough to reach one more person. And I want to make this practical. Because go reach people can turn into a slogan real fast if we're not careful. So let's shrink it down to something that you can actually do. Maybe you already have the name of someone in your head. I bet a lot of you do. Maybe it's somebody in your class. Maybe it's somebody you just met this week. Maybe it's a teammate. Maybe it's someone who's on your feed, or maybe it's somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. Somebody you keep meaning to invite, but for some reason, you keep deciding not to. Here's your assignment. And I know you all just started school and you're already getting assignments, but I'm going to give you one too. It's not go and reach the entire city. It's not go and grow Youth United as a ministry. Just this week, say 3 words to one person. Come and see. That's it. That's the whole move. You don't have to convince them. You don't have to explain the gospel perfectly to them. You just have to be unlukewarm for 3 seconds and open your mouth. But I don't want this to just be a personal challenge. I want this to be a group challenge. Here's what I mean. In a few minutes, you are going to sit down with your small group. The same group of people that you will sit down with every single week. And freshmen, you're going to find out who your groups are as well. And I want you to ask each other a hard question. Much harder than how was your week? How has school started? I want you to ask, what are we as a group going to be known for this year? When the year is over, and your freshman or your sophomore, your junior, your senior year is over, are you just going to have the same people in the same circle? Or are you going to invite someone in? Are you going to be unlukewarm? Are you going to be hot? And decide to say 3 words. Come and see.